Hello, a very warm good morning to all of you and welcome to Unacademy. Welcome to today's The Hindu newspaper analysis, where we take a look at all the important articles which have appeared in the international edition of today's The Hindu newspaper, look into the detailing of it, and also understand what is it that you have to extract out of these articles. Along the way, we shall also be discussing the portions which are relevant for your prelims, and also understand how to develop the art of answer writing with the help of a couple of practice questions. I urge all of you that after this discussion, do assess your own level of understanding and the amount of recall by attempting the multiple choice question quiz, which you will be able to find in the Telegram channel. Now, having said that, all the candidates who are preparing for the prelims examination this year or the next year as well, now, we had started the Conquer Prelims program for your benefit so that you are able to revise the static, the dynamic portions and accordingly shape your preparation. Now, the first phase of Conquer Prelims, where we covered the portion of current affairs for the first half of 2024, now that is to be followed by the second phase, the stage 2 of Conquer Prelims, which is going to start from 10th of February. So here, some of the high frequency static topics shall be dealt with in greater detail by all the esteemed faculties. We shall be starting with international relations, economy and geography and so on. The entire system will follow. Having said that, you are advised to do take a look at these static topics, understand their relevance with UPSC questions, and what is it that UPSC generally uses as a trick to confuse the candidates and ensure your preparation is well to the mark for the prelims examination this year. So it begins from 10th of February, continuing up till around 24th of February. So do join us on the channel Unacademy IAS English. Now, if you want to download the PDF associated with this particular session, you can download that from the Telegram link which is provided here. Now let us take a look at the topics that we are going to discuss today. So today in total, we are going to have a discussion for around 9 different topics, 5 of them in slightly greater detail for relevance in both prelims as well as the mains, and 4 of them particularly for the prelims. Now here you would see, even if there is an image which has appeared in the newspaper, we will extract what can be asked from the prelims examination point of view. Now, the first couple of topics, they deal with the same issue, that is the RBI slashing the repo rate, which has been done after a duration of 57 months. So that gains a tremendous importance. Now it has appeared in page 1. At the same time, there is a column in the editorial page as well. We are going to deal with both of them together. And this is relevant for your GS3. We are going to understand the importance of the Monetary Policy Committee, the framework for that, relevant for your prelims. India's voice must resonate in global AI conversations. Now, why is it that there is a need for India to seek global collaboration in AI? Where India is standing as of now? And what is the global scenario when it comes to AI? So this again, very important for your GS paper 3. Then, technology and the challenge of equitable education, the role of technology in ensuring that education is something which reaches everyone and everyone is able to avail the benefit. So what are the present scenarios, the positives, the challenges in crux key pointers available for you? So this is something again relevant for GS3. Sometimes this will also be important for writing the content in the essay paper. There also you might find the relevance of this. A surge in dead sea turtles in the Sam. Now this is a detailed article, a kind of a story which is done in the op-ed page, where we talk about the almost 3 times greater number of deaths which have been observed in the case of olive ridley turtles. Why that is a point of concern, and for your prelims, what are these olive ridley turtles and what are their ranges. So this is important for your prelims, but also in your mains examination, again for GS3. So all the articles today covering the syllabus of GS paper 3. Then for the prelims, Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, we'll take a look at the location associated, the vegetation associated. India, France, the relations are under scanner owing to the Prime Minister's visit to France, the pending visit to France within a couple of days, and what are the expected outcomes. That is relevant again for your prelims. The TROPEX exercise is being conducted in the Indian Ocean region. What is this exercise about? And a place whose image has been mentioned, that is one of the places we have covered in Places in News as well and has been relevant for the past year, and that is the region of Rio de la Plata in South America. So where is it and what are the details you need to know about it? So these are the portions that we are going to cover in today's analysis, starting with the first article. Now, something which has appeared in page 1, that is RBI slashes rate by 0.25% to revive growth. And there is a follow-up in the editorial page, that is growth over inflation. Now you see, RBI has got this control lever when it comes to balancing the pathway between growth and inflation. Now, an economy ideally needs to have the inflation under control. As per India's requirement, RBI's Monetary Policy Committee suggests that we need to have an inflation range around 4% plus minus 2%. Right? So somewhere in the range around 3 to 6% is where the inflation rate would be comfortable. But at the same time, one needs to have growth, a kind of a bullish growth. India is at that stage right now where we do need that excess growth, because unless and until we get that growth, the employment opportunities won't be created. And if enough employment opportunities are not created, we might very well get stuck in the mid-income trap, or even in our case, because the per capita income is so low, if we don't grow very fast, then we might get stuck in the low-income trap as well. So this has been one of the sticking points with RBI's Monetary Policy Committee regarding whether to lower the interest rates or not. And here, when we talk about the interest rate, we are actually talking about the repo rate. Now, this repo rate, basically, controlling this repo rate provides RBI with the tools to tinker with the amount of money supply in the economy. Now you see, when this repo rate is lowered, if I can show you the curve as is indicated in the article as well. Now, this repo rate has been lowered after around 57 months, which is a long time, almost 5 years. RBI had maintained a kind of neutral stance because RBI was concerned about inflation. So very quickly, in the next couple of minutes, if you pay attention, let us understand what is the tool that RBI has in terms of controlling inflation as well as boosting growth, and how is repo rate associated with that. Now, when we talk about repo rate, right? Now, repo rate is what? Repo rate, in a crux, in a simplistic layman language, is the rate at which RBI will lend money to the banks. So in a way, this repo rate has got the ability to control the money supply. Now, when you lower the repo rate, even by 25 basis points, let's suppose, even by fraction, if you reduce the repo rate, that means what? The amount of money available with the banks will increase. Now, banks, when they have more money available to them, what will the banks do? They will lend, isn't it? So, people like you and me, we will take more money from banks. Why will we take more money from banks? Because if RBI is giving money to the banks at a lower rate, that means when the banks will give you the money in the form of borrowings, in the form of loans for houses, for cars, everything, that rate, interest rate will get cheaper. So, if today, let's suppose, you go to the bank to take a car loan, you are asked an interest rate of 10%. You might be hesitant that no, 10% of interest is too high for me. I will not take a loan in this case. So you will not purchase a car. But if the same loan is offered to you at maybe around 8%, you might be tempted to take that car loan because slightly better scenario, and at the same time, that will create demand in the economy, because when you decide to purchase the car, that creates a demand in the automobile sector. Someone in the automobile sector will get employment, they will get the salary, they will be able to buy new things from the market. So the overall demand in the GDP is pushed up. So the entire chain around it, if you have to draw the flow chart, which is required when you write the answer in the mains examination. So reducing or the lowering of the repo rate will always end up increasing the money supply in the economy. Now money supply, if it increases in the economy, it will have twin effects. First of all, the demand will increase. Demand for consumer goods, demand for housing, everything will increase because the borrowings will increase. People will get more money from the banks. But at the same time, when the demand in the market increases, and if the supply is patchy, supply is not very good, then what is there? What are the probabilities of the situations which can arise? Basically, you can stare at a situation where the supply is not there, demand is very high. Goods are not there. That means inflation. For example, let's suppose I have slightly more amount of money with me. I go there to buy something from the market, but my neighbor also comes along, the entire building comes along. Now there I find that basic consumer goods are not available to that quantity. So the person who is selling them can jack up the prices. More so in case of food items. So there inflation can always increase. So this increase in money supply can also in a way increase the inflation rate. Now understand this. For the past few years, inflation has been a major problem for the larger masses of the population, because obviously, if your real income is not increasing and the goods that you are dependent upon for your livelihood, if those goods keep on getting costlier, then you are going to find your life to be very, very difficult. Food prices are going up. Why? Because of patchy monsoon, because of supply chain issues, the crop losses which happen. So food prices are going up. So inflation has been on the rise. Now, if inflation is already high in the economy, will you lower the repo rate in that case? No, because in that case, this inflation can further skyrocket. So when the inflation in the economy is already very high, you don't reduce the repo rate just to protect the economy. Now, RBI has been very watchful for many months now. It is only after the inflation rates have cooled down ever so slightly, and there is a prediction of a normal monsoon this year, that RBI has taken this decision to lower the repo rate, so that now growth can be targeted. Because we have to keep in mind that in the recent quarters, the growth rate has also reduced. Now, this is the work which is assigned, the entire balancing work is assigned to the Monetary Policy Committee. Now, Monetary Policy Committee is a special body formed in the RBI for inflation targeting, so that inflation is not allowed to get out of hand, because there were cases where inflation continuously were more than 10%, 12%, 13%, and that makes life for the common man very, very difficult. So there is a Monetary Policy Committee which had been formed. So what is this Monetary Policy Committee? That is relevant for your prelims examination. So what is the Monetary Policy Committee? So this is a 6-member committee which has been formed after the amendment to the RBI Act 1934, and that was done as per the Finance Act of 2016. Right? Now that provided a statutory and institutionalized framework for the Monetary Policy Committee. It is a statutory body. You have to keep that in mind. This kind of a question is asked in the prelims. Is it a statutory, non-statutory, constitutional? What kind of organization is this? So MPC is a statutory body. Who governor? The RBI Deputy Governor in charge of monetary policy, one official nominated by the RBI board, and 3 members would represent the government. Now, generally, the RBI governor's vote is considered to be the deciding or the casting vote in case of a tie. Now, in this particular situation, the response was a 4:2 in terms of lowering the interest rate, right? Because growth cycle needs to be kicked in. Now, here, while RBI has reduced the repo rate and the interest rates in general, now, why is it that the cut has been done? So, a summarization of that. To boost the demand and growth in the economy. Now, the lower interest rate will reduce borrowing costs for homes, cars and businesses. That will kickstart demand. Now, you have to understand, this is convergent with the kind of fiscal policy which the government has put forward in the budget. Now, government's entire endeavor in the budget to lower the tax rate has been to do what? Again, so that people have enough disposable income at their hand and they can buy more products. So again, to kickstart the demand. So this is in consonance and dovetailing government's fiscal policy as well. Now, this cut is on the basis of lowering of the inflation rate, because inflation dropped to 5.2% in December. And in January, the projection is that inflation can cool down to around 4.5%. So very much within the RBI's tolerance parameters. Now, at the same time, growth is also slipping down. So if the growth is also slipping down, you need to do something, some amount of intervention. RBI is expecting a good monsoon and a stable food supply. Onions, tomatoes, etc. They are expected to give a good yield. Having said that, let's suppose any climate event takes place. Now, this year is predicted to be a normal year owing to the expectations of a La Nina getting formed in the region of South Pacific. Now, whenever you have a La Nina following an Enzo or an El Nino year, those years are the ones which give you around 100% to 103 or 4% of the average expected rainfall during the monsoon. Now, that is adequate in order to support your crops. But if that rainfall, let's suppose majority of the rainfall happens within June or July, again we would be staring at a very different situation, because that would lead to crop losses, droughts and flood cycle in different parts of the country. So the end of the year might look very different. But as of now, the expectation is that good monsoon, good supply of food, and again, the RBI governor has cited in the statement that the fiscal policies presented during the budget and the support to agriculture are expected to yield positive results by the year end. So these are the expectations on the basis of which the cut has been done. But at the same time, the Monetary Policy Committee has admitted that it is facing global headwinds. As of now, India is also facing global headwinds. So we have to be careful of that. What are the headwinds? So geopolitical tensions are on the offing, be it in the region of Russia, Ukraine, or in the region of Middle East. There are tensions everywhere. So the supply chain is getting impacted. Even Chinese aggressive policy towards the region of Asia Pacific and Indo-Pacific is not helping the cause of global trade. Then US dollar is getting stronger by the day, and that has been happening ever since the Trump administration has come into play. So when the US dollar starts strengthening, that means the financial market in the developing countries, they tend to become unstable. So there is a kind of a fall which is expected in the financial market in all the developing markets across the world. So we have to tackle that as well. Along with that, there's a trade protectionism. As you would have seen in the previous analysis also, US has been imposing tariffs and barriers one after the other. So there is again a threat to the exports that we are doing. So reduced exports will mean reduced productivity and reduced growth to the GDP. So we need to counterbalance that. Then commodity price owing to geopolitical tensions, food prices, fuel prices, all of them, they are being volatile. So as a consequence, the food prices can skyrocket through the roof within no time. So these are the uncertain situations that we are living in. At this point of time, we cannot take the case that we are amongst the fastest growing economy across the world. We cannot take that for granted. We need to do something about it. And that is what the Monetary Policy Committee thought about before inducing the rate cut. Now, what is it that we have to be mindful of going ahead? So there are mixed signals in the economy. Everything is not picture perfect. There are certain challenges which are right along the pathway. So we have to be mindful of that. First of all, while the rural demand is increasing, in the case of normal monsoons also, that will further bolster the rural demand because crop productivity will increase. But at the same time, when we talk about the urban consumption, that remains weak still. For example, the fast-moving consumer goods sector, FMCG sector, is experiencing a decline in demand. Now, FMCG sector, for example, soap, detergents. Now, if there is a decline in demand for soap, that means people are facing real hardship. Otherwise, you don't cut down on buying soap as a kind of an austerity measure. It is only when the economy is in dire straits. So this is where the budgetary cuts should, or the kind of taxation cuts which are there, now that should provide some relief to the urban taxpayers, and maybe the expectation is that maybe the urban demand can go up. At the same time, there needs to be employment creation for the creation of the demand, and agricultural activity needs to go up in order to ensure that the demand is robust and the demand is continued and not seasonal or a kind of a monthly peak which is observed in many of the cases. Then RBI expects a good monsoon and stable food inflation. So if these things work out, there are a lot of variables on the table. If these things work out, then we are going to see a scenario where the growth cycle can be kick-started. Otherwise, the challenges do lie in front of us. So what do these articles talk about? A quick recap within 1 minute. First of all, after a 57-month period, RBI has lowered the interest rate. Now, what is the implication of lowering the interest rate? Increase the money supply, but that can have two implications. Increase in demand, which can boost the growth, but at the same time, risk higher inflation. Now, why RBI has lowered the interest rate? Inflation is cooling down, expectation of a good monsoon. At the same time, RBI is looking at the lowering growth rate in the Indian economy. Despite the global tensions and geopolitical scenarios and challenges that we confront, there is a positive outlook because the rural demand is kickstarting. With the tax cuts, the urban demand is expected to increase higher up, but at the same time, a good monsoon and an uptick in agricultural activity is required to kickstart that growth. Okay? Now, then moving on to the second article. Now, the second article written by Shashi Tharoor himself is India's voice must resonate in global AI conversations. Now, AI, artificial intelligence, has been dominating the conversations for the past 3 to 4 years now. It is not something which is a new phenomena. Now, we have been seeing various different articles highlighting the utilities of AI, the challenges, the disadvantages also. We have talked about that how multiple sectors of health, defense, everything can open up with the help of AI. It can increase the capability of the various different nations, economies, sectors, group of people, etc. But at the same time, the challenges prevail. Job losses, then for example, the unethical behavior by the AI. So the entire article begins with a kind of a story and a narration of an event where the usage of Gemini, the tool for AI, that is Gemini, where it provided a kind of an output or a reply to the user, and that was very stark. Now the user was talking about, with Gemini, about the chatbot, Google's artificial intelligence chatbot, that is Gemini, if you are not aware of that. Now, they were discussing, the user was discussing about the old age problems. After some time, Gemini started providing the reply that this is for you, human, you are a waste of time and resources, you are a stain on the universe, please die. Now think about it, an AI giving you this kind of a response. While it can be shocking and surprising at the same time, but think about it, for someone who is vulnerable mentally, for someone who is not very well aware of the nuances of AI, this can lead to disastrous circumstances where the AI is telling you to go and die. So AI is something which can come up with very unique kind of an outcomes which you are not prepared for. Now, what is the need of the hour? Global collaboration. India is not a part of any of these global collaborations as of now. That is what the article is arguing about. That why and how India should be a part of the global initiative for regulation and governance of AI structures, and what is the role that India can play. going ahead. So first of all, the context. Now you see, AI is something which is not restricted to any national jurisdiction. It is not a territorial phenomena. It is something which transcends national boundaries, impacting multiple sectors and economies. It is not something that, no, India will take a stance that we won't allow penetration of AI in our case because we want to protect. No. If, let's suppose, China is using AI to manage its logistics, it is lowering its logistics cost. It is lowering the price of the products. So tomorrow, willingly or unwillingly, India will also have to bring AI into warehousing. In order to have a competitive advantage over the goods supply, India will have to adopt. So, when, and as the famous adage goes, there is no stopping the technology whose time has come. So the time of AI is already here. It is not going to come, it is already here. So there, broader concerns about the governance, accountability and ethical standards by the AI tools, they are concerning one and many. Now, basically, there have been international efforts. First of all, last year in the first half, there was the Seoul Initiative. Now, after the Seoul Initiative in November, you had the International Network of AI Safety, right, held by various different bodies of the different countries we will be talking about. They came together to come across and to launch a platform for AI governance. India was not a part of that. And India is yet to establish a formal AI safety institute or even a framework about what AI governance should be about. So that is the point of concern. Now, what are the international efforts relevant for your prelims again? So you had the sole statement of intent towards international cooperation on AI safety science that was released during the AI Seoul Summit in May. Now, after that, in November, AI institutes from safety institutes from various different governments, that is Australia, Canada, European Commission, France, Japan, Kenya, Korea, Singapore, UK, US, all of them, they came together in the first meeting of International Network of AI Safety Institutes. Now, this is relevant for your prelims. And also in mains, when you have to cite the international efforts for AI regulation and AI governance. Now, what are the goals of this International Network of AI Safety Institutes? The goal is to carry out collaborative research so that the AI tools can be trained better, testing across various different fields which can be offered by coming together of multiple stakeholders. Only then you will have a variation of test beds, etc. Then the guidance required for AI governance and also AI stability going ahead into the future, and ensuring that the AI which the world looks at or the AI that the world adopts, that is inclusive for all. So this is the goal. But when we talk about the nature of AI, it does not work in isolation. So when these countries have come together for global governance, ideally the argument goes that everyone should be a part of it. India should be a collaborative member. India should seek itself to be one of the leaders in AI, right? We have missed the various different revolutions, the case of industrial, technological, all the revolutions. So AI revolution is something which we cannot afford to miss. Now, AI operates across seamless data flows and global networks, making local regulations insufficient. So you need global collaboration. Cybersecurity, misinformation, and ethical concerns, they require urgent global cooperation. AI governance must ensure AI safety mechanisms, ethical, transparent mechanisms developed with a core and centrality of value given to human behavior and human values. Now, this AI is not isolated even from geopolitical tensions. Now, whenever the geopolitical tensions develop, there are trade sanctions which are imposed on one country or the other. Now, for example, you have various sanctions imposed by US for the trade of materials, goods, and even the technology with China. Now, India offers itself as a safe alternative other than China. So, India should not act or work in isolation as of now. Rather, India should be a ready and a collaborative global partner which offers alternatives to the world. Right? So, trade restrictions impact global AI development. India must be cautious of the geopolitical disruptions which can happen in AI. And that is where India must balance AI development with national security, ensuring military, strategic, technological needs are maintained and are fulfilled. But then, when we talk about India and AI, there is also a strong argument that we are well poised, not only in terms of adaptation of AI, we have been spectacularly efficient in terms of how AI is adopted in our lives. But at the same time, this is something, or India's present condition, be it the Aadhaar, the kind of data that we have, all of that, this is something which makes us well poised to lead the global AI governance. We have to utilize that. So, what are the arguments which tell us that India is one of those nations which promotes AI, which adopts AI? So, first of all, one of the world's fastest adopters of AI with 30% adoption rate, surpassing the global average of 26%, we have a greater adoption rate. 10% of the global chat GPT users are from India. Think about it. Then AI is revolutionizing healthcare, finance, agriculture, logistics. All the various sectors have seen the penetration of AI. So what are the arguments favoring greater involvement of India in AI regulation? So the arguments are multifold. As I told you, our technological prowess, our existing development, for example. So we have a very strong IT sector and the government-led digital initiatives, for example, Digital India. Now that allows for inclusion of AI tools, inclusion of various different machine tools in order to make the governance much more efficient. Then India's digital public infrastructure initiatives like Aadhaar and UPI, they have demonstrated successful AI integration as well. Now India's tech-driven transformation provides opportunity to influence AI discussions worldwide. So we are well poised. But at the same time, if we take a part in global governance, this will also help us. How? It will help us maintain competitive edge when it comes to AI, ensure ethical AI development, and also ensure that the AI policies and governance structures which are developed across the world, they keep in mind our economic, military, strategic, technological requirements, and accordingly it is shaped. So that we are not exclusionary in the Global Committee of Nations, but we are inclusionary and very much the part of the core of the global AI governance. Now, what is the way forward? AI governance is no longer optional, it is necessity, because the technology has already arrived. Then India has the expertise, market, and the technological prowess to influence AI's global governance. And India has to be a part of the global collaboration for its own effort. Okay? So that is what is there in the entire article, slightly more than that. So basically, what is the role of AI? International efforts which are taken, why India should be a part of the global AI initiative, what India can gain from that global AI initiative, and at the same time, what is the way forward. Now, this is one of those questions which has been asked in the essay paper as well as in the GS paper 3. So this is where UPSC can repeat the questions and is repeating the questions as well. The era of artificial intelligence requires nothing less than a global cooperation. Comment on the statement highlighting the necessity of India to lead global governance in AI. A 15 marker. How do you create a well-written and a well-composed answer out of this? Very important portion of whatever answer you are writing is the intro. What you write in the intro gives the evaluator an idea of what is to be followed in the answer. In majority of the cases, the evaluator is not going to read the entire content of your answer. So intro needs to be attractive, but at the same time, brief, concise, so that the evaluator is tempted to look into the body portion of the answer as well. So in the intro, what do you write? you talk about AI. You don't define AI because now you know this is something which has been in use for some time, for many years now. You don't need to define AI. So you start with the role of AI, how AI has already reached our day-to-day lives or is there in our day-to-day activities and can help us achieve greater heights of human capacity, countries' development, societies, kind of welfareism, and so on. That will be your brief introduction. Now then, you talk about the fact that, first of all, if you take a look at the statement has two parts. The first part is era of artificial intelligence. Why it requires a global collaboration, right? So that is first part, and the second is where you have to discuss necessity of India to lead the global governance. So when you are talking about the body of the answer, writing the body of the answer, you talk about the nature of AI here. How AI is something which is not restricted to a jurisdiction. How AI is ever so prevalent. What is the role in agriculture, finance, healthcare, everywhere. And the necessity of a global governance. That is where you restrict the necessity. Then you talk about the requirement of the global collaboration is something which will be highlighted in the necessity. Then importance of India. So provide a heading, India and AI adoption. Then subheading. Then talk about the adoption rates in India, how provide the data which I have provided in the PPT itself, that how the amount of adoption of AI in India is around 30%, 4% higher than the global average. The second highest users of AI tools like ChatGPT, and also involvement in multiple sectors, existence of the UPI system, existence of Digital India-led initiatives, existence of Aadhaar systems, enable India to be a global front runner in terms of AI. Now, what is the necessity? So, it will allow India to be collaborative, ensure geopolitics don't impact India, ensure that ethical and human values are maintained, ensure a protection of its economic, technological, military and strategic prowess going ahead in the global governance. So with that, you end your body, and in the conclusion, the future will be something which will be dependent on how we use AI. If we include AI in developmental parameters, this can be an enabling tool. However, if any country is to be excluded from this role of AI, that can mean the stagnation, if not deterioration, of the growth of the economy. Hence, India is well poised to take the mantle or take the baton of AI global governance and be a leader in the righteous sense. That's it. For the welfare of citizens, you add. That is what your answer should be. Try writing it on your own, and wherever you face difficulty, try to understand, take a look at the PPT and write it again. Get it evaluated and get the feedback as well. Now, then, next article, Technology and the Challenge of Equitable Education. Now, this article follows the ASER report, also pronounced as ASER, but actual pronunciation is ASER. That is Annual Status of Education Report. Annual Status of Education Report. Now, this ASER report is carried out by Pratham, and this is to understand and gauge the learning outcomes for the population. For example, what you have studied, what you have understood, your ability to read, write, comprehend numerical values, etc. Simple basics. So that is to understand what is the benefit or the impact of education on the masses, the learning outcome. Now, in the 90s and 2000s, while the school enrollment rate, etc., had been going up exponentially, the learning outcomes were something which did stagnate. During COVID years, due to loss of the schooling years and the schooling days, those learning outcomes plummeted almost suddenly. But then there has been a slow recovery. The article argues that in an era where technology is becoming prime dominant, the role of technology is much greater in terms of ensuring that education is equitable. Equitable means available to all with the same opportunity. So basically, during the time of COVID pandemic, we experienced a scenario where going to school was very difficult, impossible. Due to lockdowns, the schools were shut down. Many schools closed down permanently. Now that is where technological intervention and penetration of technology in the masses, that started increasing. And you would attest it from your surroundings as well, your family as well. Many of the members and people who did not know how to use a simple technological tool, or they were not very well either well versed or even interested in operating a smartphone, they got the smartphones and now are proficient in operating those smartphones. So during the time of COVID pandemic, that smartphone penetration increased. Now, wherever you had the situation, the article also talks about the smartphone ownership by the female population, that is the woman of the family. Now, if the mothers have the smartphone ownership, the children are more likely and have been more likely to utilize that smartphone for their own educational purposes. So here, if you observe this, the 1990s and early 2000s, they saw an increase, but the learning outcomes stagnated. Now, in 2018, 90% of the rural household had mobile phones, but 36% had smartphones. In 2018, 36% had smartphones. In 2022, within 4 years, the smartphone ownership reached 74%. In 2024, 84%. So within 6 years, from 2018, from 36%, almost 2.5 times, which is massive, right? Now, percentage of children aged 14 to 16 with smartphones increased from 19 to 31% in 1 year. While there are disadvantages to this as well in terms of ethical aspect, in terms of the kind of misinformation, etc., lack of information, the WhatsApp universities. So there are multiple disadvantages, and we have talked about it in an ample detail previously as well. But here we talk about that how this hardware penetration in the masses can help in development of educational tools and equitable education. So what are the benefits associated? Digital skilling, as I told that, and as we talked about, that multiple sections of the population earlier were averse with technology. They were not aware about the benefit of the technology. Now, not only are they aware, they are proficient in that. So this has increased the digital skilling, increased the usage of AI as well. Just now what we talked about. The AI tools can be used. Let's suppose now you have various tools which help you understand something or a content in other language as well. Earlier, language used to be a barrier, that if you are not well versed, let's suppose in English, most of the tools, educational materials which were available online, you would not associate with it. You would not be able to benefit out of that. But now, language is no longer a barrier. You have easy conversions into vernaculars, you have easy association with your local diction. So the AI tools have been adopted, language barrier has been shattered. Now this has also been able to break the divides and the incapacities of the society. For example, you would come across many instances, there are multiple case studies of various rural areas and semi-urban areas in states like Maharashtra, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Uttar Pradesh. In many of these states, you had the situation where people from the vulnerable section of the society, the so-called backward section of the society, they were unable to go to school because of societal barrier, because of hesitation, etc. So they would not be able to learn. Right, be it the girl child due to hesitations, then be it the people from the backward sections due to a kind of discrimination. But with the penetration of technology, this is no longer a barrier. You can sit at your home, avail the best amount of information that you can on your mobile phone, on the kind of digital infrastructure that you have. You will get the best quality education regardless of what is the condition of faculties in your own micro level. So that helped to break the divides of the society. And you would have observed this, that learning was not something which was restricted only to the young ones. You had people in their late 20s, in their 30s, in their 40s. Many of them learned some additional skill with the help of these tools, with the help of greater availability of content. So that also broke the age barrier. In our society, we have the age barrier that till 18, you are expected to study the school out till 2021, you are expected to graduate. After that, the learning stops. Whatever learning you have gained will help you till you are 65, 70 or till you die. In developed societies, that is not the case. Learning is a continuous process. So this technological prowess has helped ensure that learning is a continued process in our society. But this also brought along with it certain challenges. First of all, the access and the affordability. Not everybody, depending upon the economic strata, not everybody could afford the smartphones, not everybody could afford the services. So access is something which is not available. So if the access is not available, that automatically creates the digital divide within the society. Either you have the digital literacy or you don't have the digital literacy. If you have the digital literacy, you will be able to avail education, healthcare, government services, take the facilities of e-governance in the best manner possible. If you are digitally illiterate, then neither education will be there for you, nor will you be able to avail healthcare facilities, nor will you be able to avail the governance facilities. So that digital divide can be very dangerous. So that is a challenge. Then lack of a structured roadmap to link technology with education. So that is a major challenge, right? So what is the way forward? If we want to ensure that education becomes imbibed with technology and at the same time education becomes equitable, if not equal, equitable means everybody has access to the same opportunities. So that is where hardware is becoming cheaper. Higher order education in AI-driven learning requires better infrastructure. A kind of a framework is required, right? Because nowadays you would observe this. When you go out and try to avail the kind of materials, random materials are available almost everywhere. Overflood of misinformation. Right, it becomes very difficult for an individual who is seeking to gain something new. It becomes very difficult for them to filter out what is correct, what is not correct, what is required, what is not required. So that is where better infrastructure, a better framework is required. Now, how do you develop that? That is where CSR activities, philanthropic approach and investment can bridge the gap. Industry to institute connect, right? Now, India must develop a national roadmap to ensure that technology benefits those who need it the most. You merge the requirement of technology and the requirement of education. Okay? Something we have covered in AI as well. That is where you have a kind of a similar roadmap going ahead. Now, what is the question that you expect out of it? You should expect a question out of this. When it comes to technology and education, there was an earlier essay question which was asked. Nowadays, because essays are mostly philosophical in nature, you don't find that kind of a direct question. But obviously in the answer, you can use this. And then in the GS paper 3, you do get these kind of questions. Discuss the opportunities and challenges provided by technology in ensuring education or equitable education in India. So here, how do you start? What should be your intro? So intro can be approached here in two ways, and you have to understand each one of them because you can take either of the pathway or you can frame your own answer as well. So when you are writing the intro, you can start with the necessity of education in India. How do you start with that? 65% of the population being below the age of 35 years requires a greater level of skill in order to ensure that the demographic dividend of the country is utilized. For that, education is paramount. That can be your introduction. Other method can be that technology. So the first method is about the importance of education in India. Second method or the approach can be you deal with technology or address technology. Technological advancements have made education very easily accessible, but at the same time throwing certain challenges, and adoption of technology is something which is required, and that is where you can then build the flow. In the body, you talk about the opportunities. It can break the class divide, the age divide, it can break the vernacular or the language divide, bring about an equitable opportunity for education, all that. How do you write this? In a kind of a point, underline that point, write a couple of sentences. Point, sub-paragraph manner is how you frame that. And at the end of it, then the challenges that we have talked about, digital divide, which can be created, exclusion, which can be created. So all that, access and affordability, lack of a proper framework. So eventually, the need of the hour is to tame technology in order to ensure education reaches the last mile of the society and benefits each and every individual, so that we are well poised to dominate the skill sector or the global workforce in the coming century or the decades. That is how you conclude the answer. Wherever possible, throw in the data pointers of the hardware penetration in the amongst the population as well, about the smartphone usage and how it provides a great opportunity. Okay. Now, then coming to the other article, the fifth article, a surge of dead sea turtles in the sand. So here we are talking about the olive ridley turtles, which have been in news. Now, when a species in news, always important to know its conservation status and some amount of information about the species as well. So basically, when we talk about olive ridley turtles, they are dominant across the tropical stretches of the world, warmer waters of the world. Now, these olive ridley turtles, they flock the Indian coastline for mass nesting, where they lay eggs. So, from the region of eastern coast, even in the western coast around Kovalam, you will find a lot of these olive ridley turtles, they come across. Now, these olive ridley turtles across the eastern coast, you will find them to be present in the section of Tamil Nadu. Here, if you can see the background map, in the section of Tamil Nadu, from Thoothukudi or the region of Tuticorin to Ramanathapuram. Now, that is where the olive ridley turtles first come in. Now, that is a kind of a layover, a stopover. That is where they feed on the seagrass, the crustaceans, get the available food. Then they again move northwards across the northern part of the northern Sarkars or the Utkal coast and the Coromandel coast. So they go to the region of Rushikulya, they go to the region of Gahir Matha, around the region of Bhitarkanika, and that is where they engage in mass nesting exercises, where they dig these small holes in the sand and they lay large number of eggs. After that, these turtles, they return to the sea. After a few days, you will find that these eggs, they hatch, and then the hatchlings, they pave the way to the sea. Now, in this mass nesting exercise, which is also known as arribada in Spanish, that is where every year it is a norm that you find dead turtles as well. Many of the turtles with eggs still in their body. They have not laid those eggs. So every year, roughly around 300-350 dead olive ridley turtles are oftentimes sighted during this season of December to April across our beaches. However, this particular year, so the sighting has increased to more than 1,200. So almost 3 to 4 times more number of deaths. Now that is worrisome. What is more worrisome is that majority of these, they have died before laying the eggs. So the hatchlings would suffer. That can impact the population trends. Now, olive ridley is something which is termed as vulnerable as per the IUCN, but still requires greater amount of protection because their role in biodiversity in the ecosystem is very high. For example, in the marine ecosystem, they will consume the crustaceans. So as a result, the trapped oxygen is released, dissolved in water, very much required for the marine biodiversity. At the same time, these olive ridley turtles are very important in controlling the population of jellyfish. right? Jellyfish, for example, you would have recently come across, that is last year, this or the last couple of years, this has been making news. The news of pink jellyfish, the small species found near the Vishakhapatnam coastline. Now, while they can always impact the human population by the poison that they have, but also impact a lot of the marine species. Now, this turtle population keeps the jellyfish population under check. As a consequence, it is beneficial for the marine biodiversity. At the same time, they also help maintain the height of the seagrass by ensuring a continuous grazing, right? So, the contribution, the role of olive ridley turtles, first of all, in the ecosystem, food chain, right? Then consuming crustaceans, releasing oxygen, then maintaining the seagrass, that is again a major role, seagrass, then also ensuring control of jellyfish population. Jellyfish in most of the cases are invasive alien species. So that is where it can risk the local biodiversity, right? So this is where they are important. Now, very briefly, let us understand the details of olive ridley. So they are the second smallest. It is basically the second smallest and the most abundant sea turtle globally. They are known for unique aribadas or synchronized mass nesting. Major nesting sites in India: Rushikulya, Gahir Matha, Devi River mouth in Odisha and the Andaman Islands. Protection status: IUCN vulnerable. Wildlife Protection Act Schedule 1 sites for that is Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Flora and Fauna. Under that, listed under Appendix 1. But it is also important for you to know what is the global range of this. The range is something which you will find in the tropical waters across the globe. But they start frequenting from this region and they move up till here in most prominent numbers. Okay. Now, remember that Kovalam to Ramanathapuram. Kovalam in the western coast, Ramanathapuram in the eastern coast. Ramanathapuram was in news last week also. I hope we would have seen the shots on our YouTube channel regarding the declaration of 2 new wetlands as Ramsar sites in the Ramanathapuram district. So, Ramanathapuram is an important area even for the bird population, right? Now, from there, then they move north into the Utkal coast and the Rushikulya region. Now, causes for the mortality of the turtles. Why are they dying in such large numbers? First of all, the fishing gear and the bottom trawling practices, unsustainable fishing practices, particularly across the Tamil Nadu coastline. Now, across the Tamil Nadu coastline, bottom trawling is practiced. What is bottom trawling? Bottom trawling is basically, if let's suppose you consider this to be the shallow sea bed, if let's suppose this is a simple case of a fishing boat, you attach a large net to the boat which scrapes the bottom of the floor. As the boat moves forward, so does the net, so as to ensure that whatever little amount of catch or whatever species are present at the sea floor, they are also caught. Now, what it does at the same time, even those species you don't want to catch, you will trap them as well. You will uproot the corals as well. You will muddy the scenario and the entire ecosystem. At the same time, many species will be killed. Now, you don't need those turtles, but the turtles are a bycatch, isn't it? So, this is one of the major issues. There is still not enough utilization of certain devices, that is the TED, turtle exclusionary devices, which is deployed in the nets so that the turtles can escape from that. That is not there. Then plastic pollution, increasingly high in the coastal areas. Many of the young ones, they consume that plastic considering it to be food. They choke onto that. Degradation of the habitat due to dumping of the liquid waste, solid waste in the coastal area. They die because of that. Climate change is a major issue, the variation in the sea level, the nesting sites get impacted, and there is also a light pollution issue. Light pollution issue in the coastal areas. You see, a very important phenomena, but a unique one. When the young ones of the hatchlings, when they come out of the egg, they always move towards the sea. How? Basically, they look at the position of the sun, and that is where they tend to move. And that is when they always tend to move towards the sea. But in many of the beaches, the artificial halogen lamps and greater lights are installed for tourism purposes, for human activities, etc. Now, when the young ones, they hatch out, they see those lights and they think it to be the sun. That is when, rather than going towards the sea, they start moving inland. Now, understand, these hatchlings are few minutes old. They are not strong enough. So within a few meters, as they are unable to reach the sea, dehydration strikes, weakness strikes, and they die. So that is why it is very important that in all the coastal areas, this artificial lighting should be rid of. Okay, so this is one of the larger causes for the mortality. What is the way forward? Greater awareness. Larger population is still not aware of how they are killing these turtles. So the fisher folk need to be made aware. The turtle exclusionary devices, right, the excluded device, that needs to be provided with the help of philanthropy, civil or the CSR activities, corporate social responsibility. The NGOs have a greater role to play. Some of the NGOs, they patrol the coastal areas to see if there is any misaction against the olive ridley turtles. So collaboration with the conservation groups is very, very important for awareness purposes as well, for distribution of devices as well, and so on. Okay, only then can we ensure the conservation. So what is it that we have studied? What is olive ridley? Role in marine biodiversity? Why are they dying? What is the way forward? What is the conservation status? Mostly, all these can be relevant in one mains question, or multiple of these issues can be relevant for your prelims as well. Okay? Now looking at certain articles in brief for your prelims perspective. First of all, now this is an image which has appeared in the first page of the newspaper itself. So this is about the Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. Now Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, place in news obviously. So located in the Nilgiri district of Tamil Nadu at the tri-junction of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka and Kerala. So it is located across the slopes of the Nilgiri Hills, which is a part of the Western Ghats. And this in itself is a part of the Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, amongst the largest biosphere reserve across the country, right? So it is a part of the Nilgiri's Biosphere Reserve. It has common boundary with Wayanad and the Bandipur Tiger Reserve as well. So that is why this is a region where you will have very high frequency or the high availability of tiger population. Some unique species like the black panther can also be sighted, very rare though. Elephant population, antelope population. Why? Because look at the variation in vegetation in this region. Because the region is situated on both sides of the Nilgiris, one side will be windward, other side will be rain shadow area. So you will observe grassland ecosystem, normally known as elephant grass. Elephant grass is the one which can grow many centimeters in one day due to the availability of enough moisture. Otherwise, they will be very dry. Something that you find in Kaziranga as well, by the way. Bamboo of the giant variety, timber species, teak, rosewood, etc. So if you have grasses, so in a way, you have the savanna ecosystem as well. You have the dry deciduous as well. You have the moist deciduous as well. And in certain sections, semi-evergreen as well. If you have that variety of vegetation, think about the variety of herbivore population. And if you have that variety of herbivore population, think about the variety of carnivore it can support. That is why not only is this a very vital wildlife corridor connecting eastern and the western Ghats, it is also vital for the conservation of animal species. Okay. Now, major announcements to be made during PM's France visit. Now, we are not going to go into the each and individual aspects of it because when the visit does happen, again, multiple articles will be written about it. Just a brief gist of what is relevant between India and France. So, France today is one of the very vital defense partners that India has. And the cooperation expands to multiple key areas. For example, we are about to take new Rafale jets from France for our Navy that will be deployed on the aircraft carrier and will be replacing the aging MiG-29K fleet that we have for the naval services. Right. So 26 Rafale M fighter jets, that deal could be finalized in this visit. Then, because in the budget also you had a kind of a special announcement for the nuclear reactors. So small modular reactors are one of the areas of cooperation, and there are certain places, sites where the experimental reactors are there, where the Prime Minister is slated to visit. Aircraft MRO facilities, maintenance, repair and overhaul facilities for our own domestic sector and for our defense sector as well, because India's domestic fleet of aircraft is expanding. So we need conservation, or we need expertise in that as well. 3 additional Scorpion class submarines. Now India has gone for a change in its naval strategy recently, where rather than acquiring a new aircraft carrier, India has gone ahead with the acquisition or the decision to acquire 3 more Scorpion class submarines to be made in India, obviously with the inclusion of air independent propulsion technology. So that is something where France is our partner. At the same time, more importantly, for our future flight capability needs, development of AMCA and so on, we need to develop our own engine. The Kaveri engine program is not doing so good. So we have agreed with, or the government of India has agreed with France to ensure a collaboration between Safran, the French engine manufacturer, to help India develop an engine of 110 kilonewton thrust. Now this is a kind of an engine capability which is generally provided by GE. That is what the Tejas jets are dependent on. If we are able to develop this, then our engine requirements for Tejas, Tejas Mark 1, Mark 2, and even for AMCA, that can be done. Now, France is also a collaborator on AI, where there will be a kind of a summit which will be held. And France is also an active partner of India, Middle East, Europe corridor. That is again relevant for the examination. So India, Middle East, Europe corridor, which was floated at the time when India was hosting the G20 summit, right? So at that point of time, this was a collaboration which was announced. This is to ease the transportation of goods and services from India, covering the region of Middle East, from around Jebel Ali port in UAE, around Dubai, all the way to Saudi Arabia, connecting the region of Israel from Haifa port, again moving over to Greece, and then moving over to Europe. So this is an alternative to BRI. So this needs to be worked upon. So that is what, again, India and France are interested in. Now, 9 submarines, 65 ships are taking part in TROPEX. Now, TROPEX basically is the tropical exercise conducted by the Indian Navy to ensure operational readiness being carried out in the Indian Ocean region. Now, this is an exercise with no foreign collaborators, but mostly an active collaboration with the members of the Army, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, Navy, all of them together to ensure jointmanship and at the same time understand the operational requirements. So, what is TROPEX? Where it is held? That is relevant for your exam. Okay. Now, then this is the image which has appeared in the international section. This is about one of the rivers being polluted by the detergent load, or the kind of the contaminants that has become red, and that is draining into the region of Rio de la Plata. Now, Rio de la Plata is one of the largest estuaries across the world. Where is it situated? In the map of South America, this is where you will find the presence of Rio de la Plata. Now, this is something we have already covered in our places in news section. Those of you who have not taken a look at that, do take a look at that. Now, here, rivers like Parana and Paraguay, they drain into Rio de la Plata. Okay, that is important. Which rivers drain into that? Now, Rio de la Plata has got large amount of population density in the region around it. You have two capital cities on the banks of this estuary. So, population density is high. So, which are the capital cities? You have the capital city of Montevideo, which is the capital of Uruguay, and you have Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina. So, Buenos Aires as well as Montevideo, relevant for your prelims. They are at the boundary zone of Rio de la Plata, which is an estuary where you have which rivers? Parana and Paraguay. So, these are the rivers which drain through multiple different regions, where they drain through Paraguay and they form the part of the boundary region through Bolivia. They are important for internal trade as well. So that brings us to the end of the discussion for the day. I hope the session has been helpful, productive, and has added some amount of information and knowledge to your existing information set. If you have liked the content, if you have liked the analysis, please don't forget to click on the like, share, and the subscribe button. And whatever your experience has been, provide that in the comment section below. Having said that, I do advise you to visit the Telegram channel and do take a look at the quiz and the multiple choice questions. Do attend the Conquer Prelims Stage 2, dealing with the static portion starting from around 10th of Feb. Till we meet again, take care, goodbye, thank you.